Well, thanks for joining with me for the verse of the day. My name is Pastor David Prenga. I'm the executive pastor here at Brewster Baptist Church. And this week I'll be filling in for Pastor Doug Scalisi as he's away. Well, this week the verses will be related to the temple of God. And I really would encourage you and invite you to watch my sermon on Sunday called The Temple of God. And you can find it at www.brewsterbaptistchurch.org. Click on the message and leave me a comment on what you thought about the sermon. Well, this week our verses are all dealing with the temple of God. And we see this theme, the temple of God, unfolds itself from the Old Testament to the New Testament. And it was a place, when you think about the temple of God, it's where God would meet with his people. It was a place where people could worship him and be in his presence. See, the first place we see the language of like the temple of God occurred in the Garden of Eden. And we see this with Adam and Eve in Genesis chapter 1, which leads me to the verse of the day, which is Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 and 27. And I just want to read it to you. It says, "Then God said, 'Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all creatures that move along the ground.' So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them." I think it's just awesome to think that God wanted to be part of our lives from the very beginning. That God wanted to dwell with us. That his presence was around even with Adam and Eve and in the garden. And we're told that Adam and Eve were first made in God's image. God created humanity to bear his image to the world. And I think that's pretty cool that God made each one of us in his image. Not only does God make us in his image, but we are to rule over the fish in the seas, the birds in the sky, and all of the animals. See, God puts us in such high regard to compare itself to all of humanity. And the second thing which God chooses to do is that God chooses to dwell with us. See, in the beginning it was Adam and Eve and God in the garden, and they're all together. Now picture this in your mind. This cool picture of how God wanted it to be from the beginning. That all of humanity lived together in harmony with each other, with nature and with God. And it was a beautiful picture of how things were supposed to be. But it didn't last very long. Unfortunately, this beautiful picture didn't last long. The first humans chose to rebel. And they became alienated from the garden, from each other, and from the presence of God. See, Adam and Eve, they couldn't worship together as God had intended since Adam and Eve sinned. They had to leave the garden and the presence of God. See, the rest of the Bible story is about the hope for a new humanity. That God wanted to be reunited with his people. See, when I think of these verses, I think about how much God loved Adam and Eve from the beginning. And God loves us as well. See, God created us in his image, and God wanted to dwell with us. But God also desires to be with us. And that was God's plan from the beginning. And as we will see, even through Adam and Eve's sin and was kicked out of the garden, God still loved us. God still wanted his people to worship him and have communion with him. And he wanted to dwell within us. See, God doesn't give up on us despite our sinfulness. God makes a way for us to be with him. And that's the theme of the temple of God. And tomorrow we're going to look at the tabernacle where God makes that possible. And how God desires to still dwell with us in his presence. Well, thanks for joining with me for the verse of the day. Have a wonderful day. Tune in tomorrow for the verse of the day, and God bless you. Have a great day.